that a shoot-to-kill culture is prevalent in KwaZulu-Natal, and that is within the police force in the province. According to police reports, 17 wanted criminals have been shot and killed since January this year. We speak to Mary De Haas, a crime analyst who has spoken about this issue. Mary, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. So you believe that there is a constitutional crisis in policing in South Africa. How so?
Okay, I believe it's a constitutional crisis because the police are being run by a minister, not the commissioner, not the national commissioner, and that is unconstitutional. But the Minister of Police is not the only one engaging in operational matters. It's happening in the Justice Department. We've seen it being used in KZN with the health people. This hands-on approach. Now, it is completely unconstitutional. It's not the role of ministers. It's the role of head of departments. And in the police, it's the national commissioner who's the head of department.
You also further argue that there is a breakdown of law and order in South Africa. What is the consequence of that?
Well, it's very serious. Look, if you look back to July 21, look what happened. I mean, there again, the minister should have resigned. And in any real democracy, the minister would have been ashamed at his failure to act when he should have acted immediately and got the president to bring the army in to unblock the roads. I mean, but there's no shame in this government. They don't seem to realise what their obligations are in terms of the Constitution, and the constitutional imperative of the police is to prevent crime and make sure that that order prevails, because the key function of a democratic state is to maintain order. That's the major imperative, and it's not happening. We only have to look at the runaway crime stats, and I mean we have the minister who's running the police, of course, is known for his shoot-to-kill encouragement of the police, which led to Marikana, and post-Marikana there was a panel of experts who urged immediate reform to policing, including a policing board, to make the appointments, which are currently nepotistic and politically driven, which is a danger, because remember, if this government's voted out, if this party's voted out next year, all its people are sitting there in state institutions still taking directions from the people who appointed them, who are no longer in government. That's what's happening. You can rejoice about Ace Magashule, but all these people still run the Free State. And that's what's going to happen because it is unconstitutional. Now, they are not maintaining order and law. This minister has encouraged the shoot to kill. We saw it when he was commissioner. He obviously admires. This is apartheid policing we are seeing. Shooting people, torturing. I'm not even mentioning the torturing they do. This is what the apartheid police did. And he seems to really emulate and he seems to admire apartheid policing, and that's the way he's running the police. But it gets worse because if you look at what's happening in communities, I mean, better off communities will employ, for example, a big security company that they know is registered. They know that the guards behave themselves properly because they wouldn't employ them otherwise. Now, in poorer communities, people can't afford that service. So what's happening now, if we look, for example, in Pietermaritzburg, Duzi, and here to some extent too, we find that communities themselves are engaging known criminals to keep them safe. And the known criminals kill people with impunity. I mean, what sort of law and order is this? We have a system. We have a criminal justice system. The police can say, well, these were all wanted suspects, but I know, and I can produce case after case after case for the last 30 years, that the police arrest people maliciously all the time and ignore the fact that the community member knows who the criminals are, but the police don't seem to know. Sometimes the criminals work with the local police. So, I mean, this is a breakdown of law and order. We have a justice system that's supposed to arrest and put people in court.
Mary, I think the police minister would strongly disagree with you that he is adopting apartheid or is admiring apartheid policing. During the delivery of crime statistics at times, he will go on to explain that there is a need in a country like South Africa to address the socio-economic conditions that people are living in that makes it possible for this crime, and not only just crime, but violent crime in South Africa to thrive. And so when we take a look at that, you rightfully touched on the situation of people who are able to afford to buy security and those who are not able to buy security being at their own peril, even turning to the criminals in the community to assist them. And then what needs to be done where that is concerned in terms of not only improving but making the public aware about, not only their rights but the benefits of law and order. What do you tell somebody who's hungry about law and order?
Look, have you forgotten that the Minister of Police was found to have lied under oath? I don't know why anybody accepts at face value what he says. His advisor is an apartheid policeman who was part of a unit that regularly killed people, including in the early 90s liberation fighters, claiming they were criminals. And they were never properly investigated. Another of his friends is a convicted apartheid-era drug dealer who, during his tenure as National Commissioner, got a job with his family in crime intelligence, runs a trucking industry. So, socioeconomic conditions, there are much poorer countries in Africa that don't have our crime rates. It makes people recruitable, but it's the taxi mafias, and our minister is also a good friend of the leading taxi boss, and the taxi bosses supply the hit. So, it's a bad argument, but he regularly trots out stuff that I don't know why people believe. And the whole problem is that there is no independent. If he was serious about doing his job as a minister, because this is his job, not to run around to crime scenes, his job is to implement proper policy. There's a policy document 4 years old, post-Marikana, panel of experts telling us what to do. We need a policing board to do appointments. We need proper training for public order policing. None of this has happened 4 years later. Plus the fact that IPID should have been independent 6 years ago. A constitutional court ordered that IPID had to be given independence from the ministry. Nothing has been done. So it's contempt of the constitutional court that this minister is involved in, this government executive is involved in. I wish people would wake up to this crisis, because what happened in July 21, that we've never uncovered, even the people we know should have been charged. Instigating sedition, we know who they are. They weren't charged. But who planned it, we don't know. And we know in many cases the police didn't act because they were so politicised that they supported Jacob Zuma. That's what we are sitting with in this country. We thought the current president would change things. He hasn't. The Minister of Police runs this country. The president tells Tabiso Zulu, yes, there are threat assessments, a public protector's report. You will get protection. The Minister of Police, whose job it is to protect people from crime, refuses to give someone whose life is at risk protection, and his very own police are implicating in attacks on Zulu.
To what end, Mary, that the allegation that his is not to stop crime in a country like South Africa, where women hardly feel safe, where children are also most vulnerable, men too, may we add. And so to what end is all of this?
Look, don't forget the role of organised crime. Organised crime drives a lot of this. You get these wounded addicts going and killing people. And organised crime drives ordinary crime because people will steal to feed their drug habits. They will be employed as hitmen because they need to make a living, which is, I suppose you could say it's socioeconomic, but at the same time, it doesn't create as I said, poverty levels, you will only have to look around parts of Asia, Latin America, Africa. Poverty levels are higher perhaps than ours even, and you don't get this crime. So organised crime is something there's no political will to deal with it. I mean, we know that the Scorpions were dismantled. There were problems with the Scorpions. I was the first one to point it out. And the government realised that. They had a Kampepe commission to clean up the Scorpions, get the right people into it, and the Scorpions were done away with. But you need to deal with organised crime. The idea was right. To deal with organised crime on the scale that we have it here, you actually need a unit like the Scorpions, but it's got to have people in who are vetted, who are known to behave themselves. I'm just putting it very loosely, but then you need people who are well trained, but also of the right character, who are not going to be bought off.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
to both investigate and prosecute.
Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Unfortunately, that's all the time we can afford. Mary De Haas is a crime analyst. Steve